Go for the pulls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Philly Sports Power Hour. I'm Bill Colarulo. On this leap day, February 29th, and we're getting close. We are getting close to the spring golf season. I can't wait to be out there hitting the links in the nice weather. And maybe, just maybe, some playoff hockey come spring. It's a little Flyers talk today. They made a move yesterday that made me happy. So we'll talk about that. And we'll get into the Eagles, little combine news. And I feel vindicated today. I feel really vindicated with the NFLPA report card coming out, which we're going to talk about. I wish Big Sills was here so we could talk about this NFLPA report card for the Philadelphia Eagles, the worst organization in the league. I wish Big Sills was here so we can go through this report card. But we're going to talk about that as well. And then we'll be joined later on in the show, like we are every Thursday, by my man, the one and only Mark Farzetta. Get his opinion on some things as well. So we're streaming live across the JAKIB Sports Network. We are also live across Bill Colarulo Philly Sports Talk. As Wine Niners Wine told everybody this morning, make sure you are subscribed everywhere. My man Wine Niners Wine making sure people in the chat know what's up. We're also live on TikTok as well. But let's get a little roll call in the chat from the Power Hour crew before we get into it. I see Fanny Eagles fangirl, Chuck Hutton, William Stark, Rob at Temple, Bowner Johnson checking in. First time in a while. Good to have you back. China Rat in the house. Flexin and Steppin, my man, even though him and I don't agree on anything lately. Flexin and Steppin, good to see you. Bry Guy, Jason A. Team, Twiz, Adams Exploits. Says the KC owner last. That is crazy, isn't it? The Kansas City owner got an F-. If they didn't have Andy Reid, they'd be in trouble. We got Robert Driscoll, Donnie, Stephen Patton, Slagger, Wayne Miller. A lot of people checking in. We got people checking in on TikTok as well. But let's start with a little Flyers talk. We'll jump over. Majority of the show we'll spend on the Eagles today. But let's talk about the Fly Guys because they did something that was necessary. Thank God they waived backup goaltender Cal Peterson. Because if you watched the Flyers game on Sunday against the Pittsburgh Penguins, they gave it their all, and they lose 7-6 because they had a backup goalie in Cal Peterson who couldn't stop a damn thing. And Tortorella said they're going to need a backup goalie to play 4 or 5 games down the stretch. And they're in a very tight playoff race in the Metropolitan Division and the Eastern Conference as a whole. There's not a lot of points separating everybody for the top 3 in the Metro. And there's not a lot of points separating the wild card possibilities either. So the Flyers couldn't afford to lose every single time Sam Ersson didn't start. So hopefully this means they're doing something. I mean, it means one of two things. They waived Cal Peterson. So either they're going to make a trade for a guy or they're going to roll with Felix Sandstrom, who I'm not sure how I feel about right now because Sandstrom may not give you better. Well, I guess you can't get much worse than Cal Peterson, but it's not as if Sandstrom's been lighting the world on fire down with the Phantoms. He's 11-6-2 this year with the Phantoms. But more importantly, an 882 save percentage, a 3.23 goals against, but that save percentage being down at 882 has me a little bit concerned. But then you have his NHL career. He started 18 games last year, 5 games the year before. Not impressive. 3-16, 4 overtime losses, a 362 goals against, an 887 save percentage. So I'm not sure you're getting much better from Felix Sandstrom. But maybe they'll do something. The trade deadline is March 8th. So we'll see what happens. But Sam Ersson, I have faith in. The kid's playing well. Ersson's playing really well. But not sure what we're going to get from our backup goalie, and they're going to need to win some games with him. But let's jump into some Philadelphia Eagles talk. What else we got here? See you guys checking in here. Chuck Hutton, Eagles are like Hollyweird East, just like Jeffro once at Insulated Craziness. Steve Patton, John Tortorella should be considered for Coach of the Year. He should be considered for the Jack Adams. And what he's done with this team is absolutely remarkable. Tortorella should be up for the Jack Adams, that's for sure. Oh, Shooter McGavin coming after the Philadelphia Flyers now. Oh, man. Shooter McGavin just a hater in the chat. Coming after the Fly Guys. But let's jump over. Before we get into the NFLPA report cards, let's look at some Combine news. We'll recap some things that happened at the Combine. The big news that has everybody all excited is that the Philadelphia Eagles had a formal interview with Jeremiah Trotter Jr., Axeman's son, Trotter Jr. How cool would that be to see another Trotter at linebacker in midnight green come next season? Now, if you didn't watch any of the Clemson games, Trotter Jr. is very good, but he's not like his father. He's very undersized. He's only 6 foot 230. I say only, but when you compare him to his dad was a big boy. They drafted Trotter Sr. in the 3rd round back in 1998. And some people are projecting Trotter Jr. is either going to be a late 2nd round pick, maybe a 3rd round pick. So if that's the case, maybe you could see the Philadelphia Eagles drafting a guy like Trotter. In fact, they have 2 picks in the 2nd round. They have the New Orleans Saints 50th. They have their own 53rd. And it looks like they're going to have a compensatory pick in the 3rd round at around, I think, 97th overall. Now, the issue is it's not a very deep draft class for inside linebackers. So you may see Trotter Jr. go higher than he otherwise would. But that would be kind of cool. But even if, and you guys, if you follow me either on social media or you followed this show before, that's not enough for me. I want to see them draft a linebacker, absolutely draft a linebacker, but they need to make a splash in free agency on March 11th. You need somebody that can come in here and play right away. Because if you take Trotter Jr., even if you take him or another linebacker earlier, there's no guarantee that they're going to be able to translate to the NFL game. So you cannot go into this season with that many question marks at linebacker. They have to make a splash. And I see Brandon Lewis. I mean, this is the guy I've been begging for, and that's Patrick Queen. And I see Brandon Lewis in the chat. I want to see them get Patrick Queen. You look at his numbers, he's got better every single season. He's still young. I think you're only seeing his potential. I don't think he's hit his ceiling yet. So that's what I want to see them do. But a lot of people are excited because Jeremiah Trotter Jr. met with them yesterday. He was an All-American at Clemson. So we will see. And I see people in the chat saying, hey, they're not going to pay for a linebacker. I think maybe they're going to change that philosophy. If you did hear Howie Roseman, not that he gave us much at the Combine, but if you listen to him talk, he did seem like a guy who realized that the way they built that defense last year, they missed. And they have a ton of money to spend, man. They could very easily have over $50 million in cap space for them to go out there and put into linebacker and safety and edge rusher. So, and I know I see Flexen and Steppin in the chat saying this is the same GM that didn't want to give TJ $7 million. I agree with you, man. I agree with you, but let's hope he's learned from his mistakes. Let's hope. So, I don't know. I don't know. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. be a great story. He's not going to be the answer for this season. For me, the answer this season is free agency for a linebacker. And as we're talking about some of the things Howie Roseman said or didn't say, they asked him about Haason Reddick at the Combine. And what I don't understand, and I actually tweeted this out last night, what I don't understand is everybody trying to overanalyze what Howie Roseman said about Haason Reddick. Oh, did it sound like he wants him back? Oh, it didn't really sound like he wanted him back. He didn't really give a strong endorsement of him. What did you expect Howie Roseman to say? They're in the middle of a negotiation. This is negotiation 101. If he says, we really want him back, we need him, he's our priority, well, now what happens? Well, Reddick's price goes up. If he says the opposite, and he says, well, we have a lot of young players or there's other options out there, well, now his trade price goes down. So what are people overanalyzing the Howie Roseman comments about Reddick? They are literally in the middle of the negotiation, not only with Reddick, but potentially other team trade partners. So you can't say anything. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, because you either want to get Reddick back at a decent price or you want to be able to trade Reddick and get a ton of capital back. So I just don't understand the people overanalyzing everything that Roseman said about Haason Reddick. Same thing with James Bradberry. When he says James Bradberry's under contract, James Bradberry's a part of our plan, and goes on to say when he was asked about, do you see Bradberry as a slot corner or an outside corner? Of course he's going to say outside corner. I don't think there's anybody that's going to trade for that freaking contract because it's a disaster with the way Bradberry played last year. But you at least have to posture. You at least have to hope that maybe some team's going to be dumb enough and look at what Bradberry did 2 years ago and say, hey, we'll make a trade for an outside corner. So people overanalyzing what Howie Roseman said. Look, you could agree or disagree with things that Roseman has done as far as building the roster, but one thing he does know is he knows how to negotiate. He knows not to give too much. So if he comes out at the Combine and says, yeah, Bradberry's not a part of our plans, he played like crap last year, so we're going to try to trade him. Do you think there's anybody that's going to give you anything for Bradberry? So, and you also can't say, hey, we want to cut him, because you just don't know what you're going to be able to get in the draft or via free agency. So people overanalyzing what Howie Roseman said about Reddick or Bradberry, it's ridiculous. Come on. He's not going to give you anything. But let's take a look at the NFLPA grades, because I do feel vindicated today. Now, I know, because I always give you the facts, I'm not going to try to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. I'm not going to try to say things that aren't truthful. So these NFLPA grades were done. The survey was completed November 16th. So the collapse that a lot of people want to call it, I don't think it was as much of a collapse as others think, because I just don't think they were that good when the quote-unquote collapse happened. So this was done before that, but I do think this is very telling about this Eagles organization, very telling about their head coach, their owner. So I feel a little bit vindicated, because if you were watching this show a couple days ago, I was losing my mind at people who are trying to act like this is one of the worst organizations in the NFL, because it's just not true. It's just not true. And I went through some of the stats with you. Since Jeffrey Lurie's became owner, 18 playoff appearances. Since 2000, the third most playoff appearances, the most, third to the New England Patriots and the Green Bay Packers. Since 2017, they've been to the playoffs 6 out of 7 times. There's only 2 teams with more, the Chiefs and the Bills. And the Bills haven't won a Super Bowl. So I'm over that talk. and you look at their draft grades, or excuse me, their NFLPA grades, let's check it out. So they're 4th overall, according to players. This isn't based off of fans. This isn't based off of talking heads like me or people making crap up. This is based off of the actual players, the players who are a part of the team, not us as talking heads or you fans. So all of this, the players think Sirianni's a joke. Well, he was the 6th highest rated coach according to the players. They got an A. Now, I get it. It happened before the quote-unquote collapse. But this tells you a lot about what these players think of Nick Sirianni, the person that all of you in the chat want to call a clown and a cheerleader. The 6th highest rated. Got an A from his players. And then you look at Jeffrey Lurie. People want to talk about Jeffrey Lurie being a bad owner, which I don't understand at all. One of the best owners we have in this city gets an A. Top 7 in rated owners in the NFL. But the Philadelphia Eagles overall, when they looked at all the categories, the treatment of the families, the food, the nutrition, the locker room, the training staff, the weight room, the strength coaches, team travel, head coach, ownership, the 4th highest ranked team in the entire league. So I just don't understand where all this hate comes from. And then here it comes. And I knew this was going to come. And you can't see this on TikTok, but on YouTube, Mr. Rudy Poo. Your point is irrelevant since it happened before the collapse. Stop being a homer. So, once again, here we go, because this is the arguments that I love. So we can take a 7-game stretch, a 7-game sample size, and we can use that 7-game sample size to say that Sirianni and the Eagles organization are clowns and trash. But what we can't do is look at Sirianni's 3 years as a head coach, or Jeffrey Lurie's 18 years as an owner, or Howie Roseman's decade as a general manager. We can't look at that, but we could look at 7 games. So your argument is we're allowed to look at a 7-game stretch and use that to determine that the Eagles organization and their coach are trash. But the mass majority of the information we have, we're going to just throw out the window. Just throw it out. Doesn't make any sense. It's the same argument people make about Jalen Hurts. You can't look at 2022 because it was only one season. You can't look just at 2022. It's just 1 year. He's got to do it for more. But then we can look at 2023 and we could say, hey, look at the last 7 games of Jalen Hurts 2023. He stinks. It's the arguments don't work for me. And everybody who keeps calling it a historic collapse, we made the history books. It was a historic collapse. They weren't that freaking good. They weren't that good. If they would have lost a couple of games during that 11-game stretch when they were 10-1, we wouldn't be talking about it being an historic collapse. We'd be talking about it for what it actually was, which was a team that wasn't that good, a team that was coming off a loss Super Bowl, a hangover, 2 new coordinators, a lot of change, a really tough schedule with really tough defensive coordinators. We'd be talking about that's the reason why this happened. But because they stole some games early, now we want to call it a historic collapse. It's absurd. Anyway, I feel vindicated today. And I wish Big Sills was here so that we could look at these grades so I could talk to him. But we're not going to have Big Sills. We're going to have my man, like we are every Thursday, Mark Farzetta. And him and I haven't been seeing eye to eye either. So I'm curious to talk to him about some of this Philadelphia Eagles stuff, get some combine updates, and we'll talk to him about the NFLPA report cards as well. So don't go anywhere. When we get back, we're going to be joined by the one and only Mark Farzetta. Hit that like button. We'll be right back.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing, the second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs, and then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES. Eagles.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back into the Philly Sports Power Hour on this leap day, February 29th. Kind of over. I know a lot of people who have birthdays today, and I'm kind of over the joke of, hey, we turn 11 today. I mean, come on. It's like the same thing when you're not going to see somebody after New Year, and you say, hey, see you next year. Like, come on. Been played out. Joke's over. But I saw even the Flyers did it today. They wish Simone Gagne an 11th birthday. Like, come on. How many times we got to see that stupid joke? Anyway, you know what's not stupid? Do you know who's not stupid in addition to me? My man, Mark Farzetta. So let's bring on the one and only Farzy, who's probably about 17 espressos deep by now. What's going on, Farzy?
First off, thank you. Mark Farzetta, not stupid. That's the best billing I've ever had. Thank you. And yeah, I saw that from the Flyers too on Simone Gagne. And I mean, I don't even know what day it is. Ever since the pandemic, like every year has just been kind of that week between Christmas and New Year's where no one has any idea what day it is, you know? And I was like, wait, 11. What? I was like, is he 47? Is there a typo? Yeah. I literally stared at Instagram for a second. I was just like, why? What's going on? And then I realized that, of course, it's the leap year. But yeah I could do without it.
The leap year joke. Ha ha. So original.
I did like your that. Like, that was good. I like that. That should be a drop on the Power Hour.
Yeah, there we go. Drops. All right, before we get into the Eagles, because we got a lot to talk about with the Eagles, I know you love the Fightin' Phils. And they were back in action yesterday, and some promising things. Bryce Harper looking good at first, Ramuto going yard, Alec Boehm going yard. How you feeling about this Phillies team, Farzad?
I feel great about the Phillies. I was talking about it this morning. I know Peter King, and great career, and I admire the man. Met him a number of times. Great guy, and nobody did it better than him. He says he's got a bad feeling about the Eagles. I got a great feeling about the Phillies this year. I feel like they're at least going to go back to the NLCS. I feel like they're going to get back into that stomping ground like they've been for at least the last 2 years, and I feel like they're going to get back to that kind of stage. I just feel like when you hear improvement, like I think you're going to have a good year from Aaron Nola. The thing that he's been concentrating on this spring training and concentrated on in this offseason has been just – and it sounds minuscule, I think, to the ear when you first hear it, but I think it is a big deal. I think the pitch clock, it's not the reason he had a bad year or struggled through the season and really couldn't be consistent last year, but I think it had something to do with it. It's kind of throwing off the timing and the rhythm. I think Zach Wheeler will get a deal done before the season starts. I expect another big year from him. Hearing a guy like Christopher Sanchez working on a cutter in the offseason and getting good results in the very early goings of pitchers and catchers, and maybe throwing the ball for the first time in spring training in a game, getting good results there, I think is a great thing. When you hear about that, and also the fact that Bryce Harper is your first baseman. Like, this is an upgrade every way you look at it from Rhys Hoskins. And I didn't expect, I thought, serviceable. Let's set the bar at serviceable. In the 36 games he would play at first base last year, he was better than Rhys Hoskins. And look, Rhys Hoskins, of course, as we know, a butcher at first base. But when you talk about at the plate, when you talk about at first base, a guy picked up a first baseman's mitt and was instantly better than Rhys Hoskins at first base. And one of the most encouraging things was not his single to right yesterday, but seeing him make that diving play to his right, and then even more so, make the stab to his left and step on first base and then fire to second to get the double play. That's a throw. I remember talking to, I want to say, was it Leo Mazzoni? I'm trying to think of the infield coach that the Phillies had. I can't remember. Leo Mazzoni, no, he was the manager for the Orioles, but he was friends with, I can't remember the guy's name. That was Italian guy, infield coach for the Phillies. Palazzo, I think it was, that worked with Ryan Howard on throws from first to second. And he would always say, there's a lot of green that you're throwing into if you're a first baseman. You see all that open area behind whoever's covering second. And Bryce Harper made that throw like it was nobody's business. It was great. And little things like that just let you know that as long as you have him at first base, you're in good hands. And it provides you with a lot of options then in the outfield and at the designated hitter position as well.
Yeah, and you have a healthy Bryce Harper to start the year with in itself is a big deal. And let's hope Turner doesn't have the drought he had to start the season last year. But let me ask you, one of the biggest debates in the city, who should lead off for the Phillies?
Look, you could throw all the numbers in the world about why Trey Turner or why Bryson Stott should be the Phillies leadoff hitters. And I would love to see either of those two be the Phillies leadoff hitter. But the simplest analytic, the simplest number is wins and losses. And the Phillies are at 57 win percentage when they have Kyle Schwarber in the leadoff spot, and only a 45 win percentage when they don't have Kyle Schwarber. It doesn't make any sense. It goes against every fiber of my being as a baseball guy. But good Lord, they win games with Kyle Schwarber in the leadoff spot. And I understand, look, you having a guy like him at the top of the order means he's going to get more at-bats than most people. If you have top of the order guys, you're going to get more at-bats. So you want to put the pitchers in peril as many times as possible to get a home run hitter up there. So I get the philosophy behind it, but for me, it will never make sense. It'll never be pleasing to the eye to see Kyle Schwarber atop the order. But the bottom line is they win games when he's their leadoff hitter. Why? How? I have no clue. It doesn't make any sense, but for some reason it works. And if it works, you don't mess with it. And I don't expect the Phillies to make any changes at the top of the order.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to make any changes either. And we can debate. And that's the great thing about baseball is you could look at it from every different angle and you could make arguments for, well, this is why they should do this. This is why they should do that. But I think you're right. At the end of the day, you're going to see Schwarber at the top of the lineup. Yep. But let's talk some Eagles because Combine's in full swing. But you and I spoke last Thursday, and at that point, Gunnar had already tweeted out about the Jalen Hurts stuff, about the Big Dom with Sirianni stuff, but we didn't get a chance to then talk about A.J. Brown and everything that happened with A.J. Brown, and then he calls the WIP radio station on this channel. I've been battling with Cilio because Cilio's calling him A.J. Owens and saying he's a diva. My position on it is A.J. Brown is not a diva. He's a guy who wants to win. He's a vocal leader, and people calling for him to be traded are insane, in my opinion. But what's Farzi's position on this?
I told Dan Cilio last week, like, people can't have it both ways. Like, it's the weirdest thing. People have been so desperate to put A.J. Brown and Terrell Owens in the same, as A.J. Brown said, bubble. And I feel like that's insanely irrational. That's the only way I can really look at it. The way he plays, obviously, he's a great player, certainly. But T.O. is an all-time great. A.J. Brown is a right-now great for the Eagles. Like, we're talking about a Hall of Fame. We're talking about possibly the third best wide receiver ever in Terrell Owens. Still the most talented, the best the wide receiver I've ever seen play for the Eagles. I was really young for Mike Quick. I was almost non-existent for Harold Carmichael. Okay. T.O. was the best player I've ever seen put on an Eagles jersey at the wide receiver position, without question. A.J. Brown is great. He can influence wins, obviously. He can help take over games, obviously. But I'm not putting him in that same stratosphere of Terrell Owens. So that doesn't make any sense to me. With the dramatic thing, there are two things that any sports talker or writer absolutely love.
Oh, look at that face he got frozen on right there, Farzi.
Then what's that?
You're frozen. Oh, you were frozen with a nasty face on right there.
There we go. All
right, he's back.
All right, I'm back. What was the last thing you heard, damn it?
You said one thing that frustrates you or something. You were
one thing that frustrates me is people that put T.O. and A.J. Brown in the same category, and I just hate that. They're both great players, fine, but we're talking about an all-time great in Terrell Owens and a great player right now in A.J. Brown. But there's two things right now that you look at if you're a writer or a sports talker that you absolutely love. One is a quarterback controversy. Oh, man, who should be the starting quarterback when it's close? Oh, man, let's all get our hot takes going here. And then the other thing that we love so much is a diva wide receiver. Oh, man, is there anything more enjoyable than a diva wide receiver where you can't fault him because he wants the ball and he wants to win? But on the other side, if he's calling out other players, well, that's a big problem. He is the guy that Jalen Hurts defers to in terms of leadership. And I'm not saying that Jalen Hurts is some kind of horrible leader or anything like that. I'm just saying, of the guys that are going to be more outspoken in the locker room, A.J. Brown's going to be that guy.
And this was the Santa Liquido article on Bleeding Green Nation, right?
Exactly. And you even heard from Nick Sirianni earlier this week where he talked about Jalen Hurts leading in his own way. And that's the only way you can lead. And, I'm going back and I'm watching things from this season just to make sure it's fresh in my brain going into the offseason. And there are times where you see Jalen Hurts either pre or post game breaking down the huddle, getting the guys, revved up or trying to get the guys revved up. It's not like he's a quiet little church mouse there on the sideline the entire time. During the game, mostly you'll see him on the bench. He's not exactly getting in people's faces or going over plays with guys or what happened on that play. Very rarely does the camera ever catch him doing that if he does it at all. But it does catch him before the game or after the game, trying to get guys, pumped up or trying to congratulate him on a great game. And we've seen it when the Eagles released the footage of him in the locker room, breaking down the locker room after a win, especially. So I'm not going to rule that out from Jalen Hurts, but A.J. Brown is that guy that wants to win. I don't label him a diva. I label him as a guy that wants to win and hold himself accountable. When did we just start throwing that diva term around to guys that play the way we would want them to play in Philadelphia? Do we not want a wide receiver to want the ball? I think we do. Do we want a wide receiver to hold himself and his teammates accountable and not let his coaches cover for him? Yeah, I think we want that. Do we want a guy that's willing to address the locker room and say, hey, you know what? If I've been a distraction, my bad. But it's not up to the coaches. The coaches aren't there they're not out there running plays and they're not there running routes. We are. The coaches aren't there trying to catch the football or block that we are. We got to take more responsibility. Is that not what we want from all our players throughout Philadelphia, not just with the Eagles, but to have them, hold themselves accountable and the people around them? I think that's kind of what we want. To label that a diva, I think, is a great injustice to what we actually want from our players in general in Philadelphia.
Look at this. Me and Farzy seeing eye to eye on something, like spot on.
Dude, what the hell were you patting yourself on the back? I was in the green room and waiting to come in, and you're patting yourself. I feel vindicated. What were you talking about? What was that?
I was talking about the NFLPA grades, which we'll get into in a second. But you just vindicated me again today. Because there's a lot of people. I mean, Big Sills is one of them, but there's a lot of people in the chat. There's a lot of fans who want to trade A.J. Brown and call him a diva, and I'm just not understanding where it's coming from. And I asked the question, what has he done that makes us say he's a diva? Okay, so there's been a couple of times where he wants the football. This is not a guy who's causing problems. And like you just mentioned, he's the more vocal leader on the team. Jalen Hurts defers to him. It was in that Santa Liquido article. But even let's just talk about something else here. You keep talking about Terrell Owens, right? Yeah. Everyone's talking about how Terrell Owens was one of the best wide receivers the Eagles ever had. Do you know how old, I just looked this up. Do you know how old T.O. was his first season with the Eagles?
Oh, yeah, he was 32.
31. So he was 31 to start that season. Yeah, so he ended it at 32. 31. A.J. Brown's 26 years old. He's 26 years old, and we're trying to trade this guy away. He hasn't even scratched the surface yet of what his full potential could be. Do you know, I'm looking at T.O.'s numbers. When T.O. was 26 and he had 4 seasons under his belt, he never had a season with more than 1,097 yards. In his 27th birthday season is when he went off and had 1,450 yards and then went on his tear, 1,400, 1,300. Started going crazy. A.J. Brown's already done all of that in his first 5 seasons, but he's still 26. So it's like, we want to get rid of this guy because he's a vocal leader who wants the ball. It's insanity. Yeah, it is absolute insanity.
Real quick, here's what I'll say. If he's a diva, I want Howie Roseman to go out and acquire nothing but divas. If A.J. Brown is a diva, go get me, let's say the 21 more divas. Hell, give me even a punter and a kicker that are divas. Give me those guys too.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's overblown, man. I just
think it's because it's fun. Like people love he's a diva, but he's a diva. Yeah, you know what? Fine. If that's a diva, fine. You know what he's not? A locker room cancer.
No, I don't think he is either. And I don't think you've never heard, and I keep going back to this Santa Liquido article because it was a very good article that was written at the end of the season, is he also talked about how A.J. Brown is respected. He's a family man. The teammates like him. There's a lot of things you don't hear, and we would hear it by now because you've heard some rumblings about players having an issue with Jalen Hurts a little bit, that he changed after he got his big money deal. We don't hear or see reports that teammates don't like A.J. Brown, that people don't like A.J. Brown in that locker. You don't see it. You don't see that at all.
Yeah, in the Marcus Hayes report where he referenced other guys getting treated different. I know that happens everywhere, but when it's continuous problems like not playing situational football and it doesn't get corrected, then that's a problem. But one of the things they did say was how the A.J. Brown 2-3 week media ice out, whatever you want to call it, wasn't a distraction. The bigger story to him was that those guys were getting treated different to the veteran that Marcus Hayes was quoting in the story. Also, just real quick on that, I loved how the veteran that Marcus Hayes talked to at the time said, hey, off the record. But then after A.J. Brown called into WIP, he's like, to hell with it. Go with it. You can use it.
Yeah. It's all done now. Well, look, let's talk about Jalen for a second, because when we're talking about A.J. and his leadership, I think we have to talk about Jalen. We've heard that the team wants him to be a little bit more of a vocal leader. Obviously, he's got to have a better season on the field next year. Too many turnovers last year. What are you expecting now with a new offensive coordinator, with a year where maybe Jalen got accustomed to the big money and the big contract? Are you expecting him to bounce back next year? What version of Hurts do you think we're going to get?
I think we're going to get a lot closer to the 2022 Jalen Hurts. My issue is what Nick Sirianni had to say about a meshing of schemes. When he said that, I kind of gave him an eye roll, and then I saw a bunch of other people pick it up and like, oh, it'll be a meshing of schemes with Kellen Moore. I went, what does that mean? What are we meshing from Nick Sirianni? What is Nick Sirianni's scheme? Because I don't know what his scheme is. I know what Shane Steichen liked to do. I know what Brian Johnson liked to do. If it's more of what Brian Johnson wanted to do, which was keep Jalen Hurts in the pocket as much as possible and turn him into some pocket passer, that's not good. But if Kellen Moore as I told you last week, can do the thing that the Eagles talked about, which was embrace the uniqueness of Jalen Hurts' game and let him get outside the pocket more. Let him scramble. Go ahead and use that tush-push. If that's what we're meshing, then that's not going anywhere. No one's going to turn down a play that's, 96.7% effective? So I think I'll do that. But let Jalen Hurts be his natural self. If Kellen Moore can do that, then this team is going to be successful again. If he can maybe have bubble screens that don't have Devontae Smith blocking, maybe have Dallas Goedert blocking on a bubble screen, it'll work out a little bit more. And please look, I'm already waving the white flag here as far as running the running game goes. Like for the run to pass ratio, people, this is not going to be a good year for you coming up. But if we can somehow throw to a running back, if we can incorporate that into the game plan a little bit more, whether it's an old-fashioned Andy Reid screen, whether it's improving the bubble screens that they have run in this offense time and time again, the few times that you'll see it maybe under Kellen Moore, if you can do that, then I think he's going to have a great impact on this offense. But bottom line is, I do feel it's a good hire. He does have this a good career. He has had a number one offense in the league. And I think a lot of coordinators throughout the league, any offensive coordinator or wannabe offensive coordinator, would love to jump into this Philadelphia Eagles offense and start pushing buttons. It's hard not to have success with it. And unfortunately, at the end of the year, the Eagles found a way to not have success with it.
Not having sex either. No wonder they fell apart.
That's the problem.
No wonder the collapse happened.
Give me a couple of slump busters. Come on. You know what I'm saying?
Well, look, you mentioned what Sirianni said.
The power hour just got a whole lot sexier. Sorry.
Yeah, about meshing of schemes. What other takeaways did you have? Obviously, Sirianni spoke. Roseman spoke. What other takeaways did you have at the Combine?
Let me
before you answer, by the way, I just confirmed that's not Big Sills in the chat. We got a lot of imposters in the chat. Not Big Sills. I just confirmed with him. So another fake Big Sills in the chat. But anyway.
Come on. Let me I have a question for you, and I'm sorry to do this because I hate when guests do it to me, but I'm going to do it to you. What is Nick Sirianni's scheme? When he said, like, it's going to be a meshing of our scheme and all that, what is Nick Sirianni's scheme?
Well, I would say, and I know, man, I get killed on this because I defend Sirianni so much, but
yeah, I would see him at the Sons of Italy bocce tournament every year.
But I would agree with Sirianni when he talked about how there were things that they did with a lot of success. I mean, when you do go back to the 2 years under Shane Steichen, and we can give a lot of credit to Shane Steichen, obviously, but they did run the RPO very well, very successfully. They did have a great offense in 2022. In 2023, with Brian Johnson, it looked discombobulated. It looked like there was no rhyme or reason to things that they were doing, but they do finish in the top 10 in almost every category on offense, which is just mind-blowing to me. So I do think that it's smart to say, hey, we're going to take some of the things that we did well. I think Kellen Moore hasn't been around Hurts. Sirianni's been around them for 3 seasons. So, yes, obviously, you're going to help Kellen Moore say, look, this is what has worked really well. This is what he does well. This is the terminology he likes. But I think you're going to see this be Kellen Moore's offense. The fact that he's calling the plays, the fact that he brought in his own quarterback coach, Doug Nussmeier. You know, it's different. A lot of people are comparing this, Farzy, to when, thinking what year it was. Was it 2018, 2019, where the Eagles brought in an outside offense perspective for Doug Peterson? I forget who the guy was that they brought in. They almost forced upon him another offensive mind. I got to look it up. And
it wasn't Jim Bob Cooter. It wasn't Jim Bob Cooter, was it?
It wasn't Jim Bob. I'm forgetting the name, but they
Patullo?
Did a similar. No, it wasn't Patullo either.
He's back.
Let me see if I could find it. But it was a similar scenario where they brought in a guy to provide fresh eyes and a new perspective. And in essence, nothing changed. It was still Doug Peterson's offense, but Dougie P was still calling the plays. I think in this instance, Scangarello, there it is, Jason 18. They brought in Scangarello, another Paisan, and it didn't really work. You didn't see much change in the offense. This is going to be different because Kellen Moore's calling the plays. His quarterback coach is his quarterback coach. But I think it's smart that, yes, Sirianni's going to tell him, look, this is what's worked over the years, and these are some of the things he does really well. So it's yet to be determined.
Yeah, I think one of the things that a lot of people jumped on, and I was one of them for a time, but when we didn't know anything about Jonathan Gannon, really, Jonathan Gannon came out and said, I don't have a scheme. There's that famous quote, I don't have a scheme, And it's like, some of that should be applauded. because the scheme should fit the players, not the other way around. You don't try to square peg, round hole it. And one of the reasons, the big reasons that Jim Johnson was so successful here in Philadelphia with his defenses over the years was the simple fact that he coached to what he had. Jeremiah Trotter, especially in his second stint with the Eagles, was essentially I've heard his former teammates describe him as a third defensive tackle. He wasn't a middle linebacker. He was a third DT with a running start, essentially. You coached what you had. Brian Dawkins brought him back down in the box when he got longer in the tooth in his career here in Philadelphia, and he turned him into almost another linebacker. But he played great, and the team was playing great. Jim Johnson knew how to get the absolute best out of his players. That's what every great coach has to be able to do. Every great coordinator has to be able to do. So people talk about scheme, especially whether it's Kellen Moore or it's Vic Fangio. Yeah, look, I would love to see players come in here that do fit that scheme and maybe can help translate. I saw Tim McMahon at ESPN put it out there on the offensive side of things. You could have a guy like Tony Pollard come in here to Philadelphia and be a running back for the Eagles. It's a possibility. He's a possible replacement as a second running back or number one with Kenny Gainwell. On the other side, you're looking at Van Ginkel possibly coming up from the Dolphins to play here for the Philadelphia Eagles. He would be a guy that could translate for Vic Fangio's scheme. Guys, they want to have guys that are familiar with the way they do things. In basketball, we're seeing it now with Kyle Lowry coming in here for Nick Nurse, So it happens throughout sports. So I'm not going to be surprised if a move like that happens. But back to your question about the combine. I am very interested today, 3 o'clock. I know it's defensive linemen. I know it's linebackers. I'm very, very interested to see how Jeremiah Trotter Jr. performs. Look, he said it's going to be a blessing if he gets drafted and plays for the Eagles. Hell, we would be blessed if he got drafted and played here for the Eagles. I know he's a little bit of a smaller frame. You're talking about 6 foot, 230. You're looking at some other guys in the draft, obviously, that a little bit lankier at different positions. Who is it? Edgerrin Cooper out of Texas A&M. He's got a possibility to become an Eagle as well. Both are projected to be maybe late second-round picks, maybe early third-round picks. Those are guys that I think the Eagles would have great interest in, but two of the top running backs there in the two of the top linebackers there in the draft that I'd be interested to see if the Eagles really do kick the tires there.
Now, let me get your position on that. I would like to see them draft a linebacker, but even if they did draft a linebacker high in the draft, is that enough for you, or do you want to see them make a move in 2 weeks at free agency?
You need some kind of proven commodity. I'm not saying proven where he's been an all-pro or a Pro Bowler, just somebody where you know what you're going to get. And I think Van Ginkel will be a guy like that. Not that I'm banging the drum for him to come here, but a guy along those terms, a guy that has played in the league. He's had a little bit of success in the league. You know what you're getting. Look, the bar, as we know, is not set high. However, we were doing cartwheels over Zach Cunningham and the way he played last year because we were just so grateful to see someone at least know how to play the linebacker position. Miles Jack obviously did not work out at all here in Philadelphia. He wanted to go learn apocalyptic traits before he played linebacker for the Eagles, ended up going to the Steelers later in the season. But I would love to avoid that type of need late in the season. I would like to avoid going into training camp. You're getting close to the end of it going, well, we still don't have a linebacker. What are we going to do? Can we just get away from that? That's what I would, that'd be successful for me. If you're able to draft a linebacker that you can have some confidence in maturing, growing, teaching, I'm a happy camper. If you get somebody in here that is a veteran and that can help you out during the season before training camp breaks, before the season starts, then I'm a happy camper. That's what the Eagles have to do. They do have to, in some way, shape, or form, concentrate on that linebacker position.
So free agency literally is less than 2 weeks away, which is awesome. What's your priorities when free agency hits? What would make it a successful free agency period if they could get a couple of players? What do you want?
Proven commodity at corner. I saw L'Jarius Sneed, people making moves to bring him into the quarterback position. It's going to be very difficult, but it's a huge priority for me. Look, everyone's getting bent out of shape over what was said about James Bradbury. I hate using this, but it can be applied here. What's he going to say?
Exactly. Yeah, I said that right before you came on.
What's Howie supposed to say? Howie said the bare minimum. If anything, to me, and in honor of your Flyers sweater you have on there, your Flyers gear, right? Paul Holmgren said, I like our team, and then like a week later traded Mike Richards and Jeff Carter. Okay,
that was a crazy news day, wasn't it?
That was. I like our team. I like our team. They took you as far as they could, and then they won a couple of cups there with the Kings. Damn it! But to get back to the Eagles, I don't ever believe a GM when they tell you they're done or they tell you that they like their team. Then whenever they say that, oh, so you're done? You're just going to take the rest of the year off, I guess? To me, it doesn't make any damn sense. So whenever they say that, I go, this is the bare minimum. This is just lip service. This is GM speak. So what he said about James Bradbury, and he's in our plans, well, yeah, because you're not going to say you're going to cut him. You're not going to say you're going to release him. You want to try to at least maybe trade him, but I don't think
nobody's going to be dumb enough. But yes, you're not going to. You got to at least posture to see if there's somebody that's going to be dumb enough to do it.
I'll put it like this: I'll sidestep liar with Howie Roseman, and I'll say sure, he's part of your plan, but he's not a priority. Let's put it like that when it comes to James Bradbury. When it comes to the cornerback position, I think that will be a higher priority in order to improve it. And if they can find a way around it, I saw Reuben Frank write last week about Byron Maxwell. Byron Maxwell was a little older than James Bradbury, a little younger than James Bradbury when he moved on from him. So Howie has been known to make those magic moves. I don't know if he'll be able to make it this time around with James Bradbury, given the money and also given the age. But I look at corner, I look at linebacker, and I do look at running back. I look at the running back position with the Eagles because I do think that is of a necessity. Even if it's not going to be a run-happy offense, you need a stable of running backs, and I would like to be able to give the ball to a guy that, A, is going to play, unlike Rashad Penny, and B, can do something with the ball if he is given it, whether that is on a screen, whether that is on a wheel route, or what's it called, where the quarterback, he takes the football and he hands it to the running. What is that called when you do that? I don't even know what that's called anymore.
Yeah.
Is it a handoff?
It's a handoff.
I think it's called a handoff. Yeah, that's the ticket. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, there you go. Oh, and about this under center. Huh? Little single back formation? Huh? Give me a little of that. And we'll see what a running back can do for you. So I'd go corner, I'd go linebacker, and I'd go to running back.
Yeah, running back's important. And I wouldn't even mind them bringing in a nice third wide receiver option now that you're finally Quez Watkins is a free agent. Olamide Zaccheaus is a free agent. So maybe they can upgrade that position as well. But before I let you out the door, NFLPA report cards came out. Philadelphia Eagles, number 4 in the entire NFL overall. Owner got an A. Head coach got an A. Now, granted, this was before the quote-unquote collapse. But you take anything from this, Farzy?
No. I saw it. I went, okay. This is literally how the players are grading their own franchise, right? The Players Association grading okay.
Yeah.
I don't care that the Hot Pockets are hotter in the NovaCare Complex cafeteria than they are at One Packer Way. Okay. I don't care. The family atmosphere. Okay, cool. The Chiefs ownership got an F.
Yeah, that's insane, isn't it? So did the Steelers.
Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? What does it mean?
Steelers got an F, and the Chiefs got an F- for the owner.
I don't have to wait in line at the NovaCare Complex cafeteria longer than I do at the Cowboy practice facility.
Funny story about the Chiefs owner. I was at the Super Bowl 54 in Miami. Chiefs and Niners when the Chiefs won. And I'm in the gym at my hotel, and I'm running on the treadmill. And then I look over to my left, and it's the Chiefs owner also running on the treadmill. Very slow, mind you. Not a very
look
guy.
At you.
Yeah. Was showing him up.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you're trying out for him.
Showing him up.
Can I put this treadmill on 40 yards? Watch my time.
So I was also, when I went to Super Bowl 52, I was in the gym, and Roger Goodell was in there with his personal trainer working out pretty hard. So I was staying at the same hotel as where all the NFL employees were, not the players, but it was all the NFL employees and the owners. And Roger Goodell was working out hard, man, going after it.
When I was at Super Bowl 52, I was pretty sure I was getting drunk off my ass at a bar with, this is so fun. One of my best friends in grade school, his little brother was at the Super Bowl. He's like, dude, you said we'd hang out. If I was out here, I'm out here. He drove from California to Minnesota. And I was like, well, I can't say no. I literally got done the day of work, got back to my hotel, and then I was like, oh, damn it, I did say I'd hang out. And we ended up having a great time. I had a great time.
Yeah. And I'm getting trolled in the chat for flexing an old man. He's not that old. He's 59. And back in 2017, when we were there, or 2019, he was how old then?
Still
54.
old?
54. He wasn't that old. Come on.
I'll say 54. Yeah, that's true. And 54 is not that bad anymore. You know
when
what I mean?
got billions, when you got billions of dollars, it's a little bit different. You don't age.
Yeah, right.
You don't age.
Just rub the $100 bills on your face. Yeah.
Anyway, I appreciate you making time, my brother. Everybody, make sure you're checking out the Farzy Show every day, 6 to 7 on Farzy Social, on JAKIB Sports. And if you're not up that early, that's the beautiful part about YouTube. You can watch it whenever you want, right?
Yeah, man. A whole lot more sex talk.
Man, you want viewers, man. People are not going to tune in now.
Yeah, hey, man. Skin gets clicks. You know what I'm saying?
All right, my brother. I appreciate you, Farzy.
Have a good one, bro. See you.
You too, man. Mark Farzetta in the house. Always love when Farzy joins the show on Thursdays. But we're running out of time with the Philly Sports Power Hour. So like we end every Philly Sports Power Hour, a little today in sports history. This one was a little bit harder because of the leap year. Because today, February 29th, only comes around every 4 years. Is that what it is? Every 4 years? How often is a leap year? Is it 4 years? I don't even freaking know. Well, now I got to Google that. You guys will probably get me in the chat before. How often is a leap year? Yeah, every 4 years. Look at me knowing stuff. Anyway, so February 29th, 1956, the Cleveland Indians, which are now the Cleveland Guardians, were sold for $4 million. 1956, the Cleveland Indians were sold for $4 million. Do you know what they're worth right now? $1.3 billion with a B. 1956, you could have got that team for $4 million. Insane. Insane how much sports have changed over the years and how valuable these organizations are. So, and the Cleveland Guardians, the name just doesn't work for me. Doesn't work for me, the Cleveland Guardians. But anyway, I appreciate everybody, as always, spending time with me on the Philly Sports Power Hour. Hit that like button for me. Hit that share button. Make sure you're following everywhere, as Wine Niners Wine told you at the beginning of the show. We'll be back here tomorrow at 10 o'clock, which was usually a football Friday, but no football, unfortunately. And you got no games tonight. No Sixers game, no Flyers game. They'll be back in action tomorrow. So hit that like button, hit that share button. I'll see you tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. This was the Philly Sports Power Hour. And as always, go Birds.
Go for the pulls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.